Warning. This is a satirical analysis of Nekopara intended for mature audiences and people who can differentiate between reality and fantasy. If you are not one of those people, stop watching now. Enjoy. You know, I love imagining that I'm Cashao, and not for the reason that you think. Sure, he gets to fuck my waifu Chocla, but the real reason I want to be him is because he is the owner of a popular and profitable business staffed by Nekos who are basically walking advertisements and essentially work for free. Hey guys, I'm Axel the Weeb, and this is the second part of my Nekopara series. This episode will build on some of the concepts from last episode, so if you haven't seen it, I'd suggest watching it before watching this. Nekopara Volume 1 starts immediately after the events of Volume 0. First thing in the morning, Cashao gets his first rounds of supplies for the shop. Out of all the boxes that arrived, 2 of them are much larger than the rest. As Cashao is inspecting the delivery, he hears a sneeze come from one of the boxes and goes, out loud. Vanilla meows and Cashao exclaims that it's just a bothersome cat. Thinking that they are in the clear, Vanilla calls out to Chocla that she tricked Cashao. Suddenly Cashao opens the boxes and to no one's surprise he finds his Nekos. Cashao asks them what they are doing mixed in with all of his shop supplies, and they say that they have to be with him because he is their master. Later on in the story, the real reason behind why Chocla and Vanilla show up is explained. Chocla and Vanilla go and cuddle up on Cashao's bed in the residential area above the shop while Cashao calls Shigure to have her come pick up the Nekos. It's weird that Shigure isn't picking up the phone even though she has an ESP-like ability to sense when her Nisama is calling. While Chocla and Vanilla are still cuddled up on Cashao's bed, Cashao starts expositing to himself about what catgirls are. Dude, you're like almost 20. It should be common knowledge for you to know the things that you're talking to yourself about. And then he goes, well, they aren't young catgirls anymore, so I shouldn't have to worry about them getting out of control too much. After Cashao is done expositing to himself a little bit more about things he should already know, the Nekos come back from snuggling on his bed. Once they are back, Cashao starts asking them about why they were mixed up in the boxes that came to the store. Chocla exclaims that you said you wouldn't bring us with you, so we had no choice, and Vanilla states that she is wherever Chocla is. After the Nekos explain themselves, Cashao states that it would be easier for them to just live back at the house, where they would have everything taken care of for them, and that he has no intention of ever going back. Now, it's statements like these that make me think that Cashao suffered some kind of off-screen trauma, like I said in the last episode, and later on I will explain what kind of trauma I think happened to Cashao. As the tension in the scene builds to a climax, an anime contrivance happens to move the plot somewhere else, as Chocola's stomach begins to growl and they now have a reason to go shopping for lunch. As Cashao and friends are in the shopping district, we, as the audience, get to see the more mischievous side of the Nekos as they try to get Cashao to buy shampoo for them. After Cashao makes it very clear that he is not buying the shampoo, 2 miscellaneous characters start to talk to each other about how they should call the cops on that guy they just saw and report him for Neko abuse. Cashao overhears the miscellaneous characters and gets out of the shopping district in a flash, before exclaiming to the Nekos that he almost got reported. Now, as I was writing the script for this video, I was trying to work in an idea that this world also has a totalitarian government, because of the dialogue between the 2 miscellaneous characters, and Cashao's reaction, showing that bad things happen to people who just say no to their Nekos, but I don't think there are enough instances of this to make that idea work. After the incident in the shopping district, Cashao and friends are finally buying the food that they originally set out to get, and because of the change in lighting, it can be assumed that they have been out shopping for a while, and considering that they were hungry before leaving the shop, they must now be starving. They find a food stand, and this is a scene in which an interesting plot point is told to the reader. Remember last episode when I said that the ages of the characters are never stated directly but can be inferred? Well, this is the closest that Nekopara ever comes to revealing the age of a character. Cashao exposits about how Milk, the adopted Neko of the food stand owner, looks like she is 12 or 13 but is actually only 6 months old, and then tells the food stand owner that he took Chocla and Vanilla to the vet shortly after bringing them into his home, and the vet told him that they are only 3 months old at the time. After that, the food stand owner exposits to Cashao about how there was a time when there were a lot of stray Nekos, and how they were a real problem up until recently. This statement by the food stand owner is another thing that doesn't make any sense, because this was a large-scale public occurrence. It's things like this that make me say that Cashao has a form of anime amnesia brought on by some kind of off-screen trauma. Once Cashao and friends come back to the house after a long day of shopping and expositing, the token accidental groping scene happens just after Kashao tells the Nekos one more time that they can't stay. The Nekos start running around and Kashao grabs Chocola's chest with an iron grip, as Vanilla calls it. Once subdued, the Nekos agree to sleep over and change into pajamas that they brought with them. This causes Kashao to think about just how much planning went into the Nekos' scheme. Kashao tells them to sleep in his bed and he'll sleep on the couch. And this is because he explicitly states that he doesn't see the Nekos in any kind of sexual manner. Remember this moment, people, because the rest of this story is about the unmaking of this man. The second day starts off with a phone conversation between Kashao and Shigure, in which Kashao is asking that Shigure pick up the Nekos and take them back home. Shigure says that the only way she'll do this is if the Nekos agree to come back home. Kashao thinks about the impossibility of convincing the Nekos to leave, and the call basically ends. Next, Kashao and friends are having breakfast, and Kashao is talking to the Nekos about how they can't stay with him. The tension in the scene builds to a climax before another anime contrivance happens. This time, the second round of supplies for the shop are delivered. The delivery service is called Royal Wood, and they accidentally mixed in someone else's supplies, so now they have to separate the two orders. Kashao says that this will take about 2 hours to separate, but then sees the Nekos staring and decides that they can help speed up the process of separation. Once everything is said and done, Kashao praises the Nekos before depressing them again with talk of sending them home. Then Vanilla starts to exposit about how catgirls think, causing Kashao to start feeling guilty and takes the Nekos shopping for store supplies. They walk along the same path as before, and Kashao gives Vanilla some money for drinks so she can be written out of the scene for a few minutes. While Chocola and Kashao are alone, Chocola starts crying while reminiscing about the time they were rescued. Kashao has a flashback, but before that happens, he thinks to himself, that day was 6 months ago. Remember when I said that the character ages can be inferred? They were 3 months old 6 months ago. So what I can say is that this tells us something very interesting about the mental development of Nekos, which I will explain later in this episode. After the flashback to Depression City, Chocola cries a little bit more about how she wants to stay with Kashao, and Kashao finally gives in and lets the Nekos stay with him. Then the intro to Nekopara Volume 1 starts, leading to the start of Day 3. The beginning of Day 3 is a recreation of the first couple pages of the first doujin. Next, Kashao starts to show the Nekos his business cards, in which Vanilla really wants one, for a reason that is explained later, and then they go shopping again. Like, seriously dude, you go shopping way too much. This time, they go shopping for books on Neko development, and at the bookstore, the clerk tells Kashao something that he should already know. The clerk tells him that you can talk to Nekos. This line right here is like a video game giving you a tutorial for a mechanic that you figured out 2 hours ago. After the bookstore, Vanilla really wants to go to the drugstore for a deceptive reason, and Kashao agrees because he wants to pick up some over-the-counter painkillers. While Kashao is getting the pills, Chocola starts asking him about menstrual pain, because she thinks it's the pain in your muscles after cleaning, because she's very perceptive. Kashao gets Chocola to stop asking him about menstrual pain by getting her to find Vanilla. Chocola smells the air and finds Vanilla's scent, which leads them to finding her. Kashao questions Vanilla about her disappearance, and when she doesn't really answer, Kashao kind of accuses her of peeing outside, when in reality Vanilla was actually covertly giving Shigure the business card so she would know where the shop is located. Once they are done shopping, Kashao and friends go back to the store so the Nekos can start practicing taking orders and making cakes. Since Chocola is a klutz, she spills cake batter all over herself and Vanilla, leading to the first ecchi bath scene. During this scene, Kashao is washing the Nekos and expositing to himself about how he sees the Nekos as sisters or even daughters. Kashao then says that the Nekos have become quite feminine, then goes, "Wait a minute, they're catgirls. What am I doing thinking stuff like that?" This is another instance of Kashao explicitly stating that he has no interest in the Nekos. He even goes on to say, "Why would I lust for catgirls like you when you're just troublesome daughters to me?" On Day 4 is when the store finally opens, and about 5 minutes later, Shigure walks in wearing a disguise that fools no one. This is also when we get to meet the rest of the Minaduki Nekos. First we have Azuki, then Maple, then Cinnamon, and finally Coconut. Shigure buys all the cakes to commemorate the opening of the shop, and Kashao states that with all the cakes being bought and the store being at max capacity, he should close up for the day. Now there are two things about what just happened that don't make sense. First off, don't close your new business literally a few minutes after opening for the first time. And secondly, Max capacity is only 8 people. Remember the max capacity number for something important later. During the opening celebration, Shigure apologizes to Kashao about the sneaky way that she found the store and says, "If you're going to scold your bad little sister, I ask that you be firm yet kind." Kashao gets a little creeped out and says that he won't punish her for causing Shigure to say that she was looking forward to some gentle scolding. Once Shigure is done being creepy, she starts to tell Kashao that in order for the Nekos to be legally paid employees, they need to have independent action permits, but that the Nekos can work for free without the permit. Shigure states that the bells are the permit, causing Kashao to go, "Wow, I didn't know that." Kashao, how do you not know that the bell is the permit? 4 out of the 6 Nekos that you lived with are bell holders. This is another instance that leads me to believe that Kashao suffered some form of off-screen trauma leading to his anime amnesia. Day 5 happens to show the audience what a normal day at the shop looks like. It turns out that selling out and closing down right away on the grand opening actually generated a lot of word of mouth for the store. Not much happens until the next scene transition that says, a few days later when the shop is closed. Because the Nekos don't have bells yet, they can't actually be paid with money, so it can only be assumed that the Nekos are currently being paid in cake. It's only now that Shigure starts training the Nekos for the bell exam. Shigure tells Chocola that without a bell she isn't a real cat girl, and this causes Chocola to have an existential crisis. Come on, Shigure. Chocola is only like 9 months old, cut her some slack. Shigure also says, "Chocola, Vanilla, you want to become Nisama's partners as soon as possible, right?" And both the Nekos and Kashao agree. Although Kashao understands Shigure saying partners to mean employees instead of companions, as she actually means. And I'm pretty sure the Nekos are taking it the same way that Kashao is. Then a quick training montage happens involving Azuki's inability to resist fatty tuna, Coconut resisting a feather lure only to assault Chocola in an attempt to swat a butterfly, Maple showing Chocola how to use a phone, and Cinnamon giving Vanilla a biology lesson on how plants reproduce. One of the last things Shigure says in this scene is, "It's important to be educated in common knowledge and achieve at least an elementary school reading level." Remember this for when I talk about Kashao's trauma and the interesting thing about Neko development near the end of this episode. The last thing that happens on this day is that the Nekos come back from a long day of training with Shigure to show off their new skills to Kashao. Kashao decides to go through the list of catgirl killer questions. First they fail the petting test, then fail the resist sniffing test, then fail the flamen response test, fail the clap test, fail the feather lure resistance test, and finally they fail the catnip test and basically pass out on the floor. Okay, so this next scene transition has a fucking JoJo reference in it. Vanilla thinks a stand attack happened because they passed out in their clothes and woke up in pajamas. Now at the start of the next day, the plot really starts moving fast. It can only be assumed that 1 day has passed from Shigure's training to the actual bell test. So I'm thinking that the bell test area is sort of like the DMV. You know, you just kind of show up and take the test. As the Nekos come back, they have their bells, and Vanilla says that only 5% of Nekos pass on their first attempt. Cinnamon said that only 10% of Nekos pass in general, and if Chocolate and Vanilla passed on their first attempt, that means that they are in the top 5% of the top 10%. Does that put Chocolate and Vanilla in like the top 1% of all Nekos in this world over a long enough period of time? As a reward for achieving bell holder status, they go shopping. Again. Jeez, dude, like for real? And as Kashao and friends are out shopping, again, Chocola starts to go into heat, and anime contrivances start happening all over the place. This goes on until Vanilla says, if a cat girl in heat isn't able to let out her feelings properly, it could have an adverse effect on her health. This line is kind of funny because for as many times as Vanilla states that cat girls are very honest, she lies all the time. And later on this is explained to be one of those lies. Vanilla also says, I know that catgirls and humans can't have children together. And then Kashao basically goes, I don't want to have sex with you, you're my pet and my family. Kashao then exposits to himself about how he didn't know that raising catgirls would involve fucking them. Part of the trauma that Kashao suffered causes him to have wild mood swings and drastic changes in personality. And then the first H scene starts. The next day is all about Vanilla going into heat. Basically, she does the same thing as Chocola, and then the second H scene starts. Like when I said the story starts moving really fast, it starts moving really fast. At the start of the next day, Kasha is talking to Shigure about the health effects of not fucking your cats when they go into heat. Shigure says that she's never heard of anything like that because she has the Nekos at home do workouts to relieve their heat. This is when Chocola and Vanilla chime in and say that Shigure told them to tell Kasha the whole not fucking leading to bad health thing. Shigure starts to go on and on about how she wants to seduce Kasha, and Kasha basically goes, "Dude, stop. Stop, that's fucking weird. It's not like you're a cat or something." As Kasha and the Nekos are downstairs opening up the store, Shigure is alone and expositing to herself. She talks about how she can never be with her Nisama because now he has cat-panions, and I'm all like, well, bitch, you played yourself. It's at this point that the story really starts to wrap itself up, as all there's left for Kasha and friends to do is to go to the amusement park, have one more H scene, and then Kasha gets sick. This sickness is diagnosed as the anime brand of chronic fatigue, or as I like to call it, blowing like 15 loads in 2 days. Yeah, I'd be fucking exhausted too. While Kasha is laying on his bed, Shigure is by his side while on the phone with their parents. She hangs up and says to Kasha, "Why do I have to do what mom and dad say?" Bitch, it's because you're like 12. Then Kasha says, "If they found out you came here, you'd never be able to come back, right?" Dude, like, what the fuck is wrong with the parents? Okay, now I'll tell you my theory about what happened to Kasha. I believe that the father is a crazy physically abusive person who beat the crap out of Kasha regularly, probably for finding Nekos to be attractive. Actually, in Volume 3, there's a Neko racist, showing that there's whole groups of people who just despise Nekos and their existence. This regular abuse caused Kasha's mind to fracture, and we, the audience, are seeing the world through the new fracture in Kasha's mind. And this is why he doesn't know things that should be clear as day to him. I also believe that the father would sexually abuse Shigure on a regular basis, leading Shigure to develop an unnatural attraction to her brother. It is also this abuse that would cause Shigure to want to get revenge on her father by turning their Nekos into Kasha's cat-panions. Now, the really cool thing about Neko development is that they are a combination of primate and feline DNA, in which they have the total growth period of a cat to sexual maturity, and they also achieve the full physical maturity of an adult human in about 9 months. In this 9-month period, they go from having a newborn's level of understanding to that of at least a 12-year-old human. Remember that in order to have a bell, you need to at least have an elementary level reading ability. Remember back when I said I was trying to work in the idea of a totalitarian government for the world of Nekopara? Well, with this kind of technological advancement into genetic engineering, it isn't much of a leap to suggest that the militaries of this world are made from lab-grown super soldiers. Hell, there was probably some final world war that wiped out 90% of the world's population in Nekopara. Actually, you know what? The Nekos are probably the result of peacetime utilization of this world's genetic engineering technology. Instead of using it for the creation of super soldiers, it's being used for the purpose of social pacification, as Nekos are very commonly taken to be romantic partners, who Vanilla states that they can't get pregnant from humans. I mean, come on, Japan, your birth rates are already low enough, you don't need this too. The final part of Nekopara involves the Nekos almost getting arrested because they went out looking for help for Kasha because he's sick. The Nekos almost get arrested because they are without their bells and Kasha shows up just at the right time. Then a set of secondary credits run showing a scene of all the Nekos working for him, and this is the final thing of Nekopara that doesn't make any sense. Because earlier on when all the Nekos and Shigure were in the shop for the first time, Kasha stated that the store was at max capacity. And now with just the employees alone, the shop is constantly at max capacity. Alright guys, I'm Axel the Weeb, thanks for watching, and in the next episode we'll be looking at Nekopara Volume 2, the Shonen Redemption Arc.